Hello guys, hope you're really well. Today we're going to be talking about Reiss Nelson and his slightly unusual contract situation at Arsenal. Give you a sort of big picture look at what's happening there. But before we do, let's talk about the big transfers everyone's talking about. Quick update on Declan Rice and Jurrien Timber. The news is, there is no news. Both deals basically in the same place as the last time we spoke. Edging towards completion, final stages, final details. I don't sense any anxiety really from any party involved about those deals going through. If I had to say, I'd say maybe Timber looks like the one that could get done a bit quicker. Ajax very clear in what exactly they need Arsenal to do. Arsenal just need to sort of jump through the respective hoops. The Declan Rice one, could be impacted by his personal plans, travel plans, holiday. I think that one we could be looking more towards the end of this week, maybe even the start of next week. But I don't get the sense at all there's any jeopardy there. I think everything is working smoothly and towards a conclusion. It's a busy time at Arsenal, but those deals are all but done. And there could be a very exciting arrival on the women's side too, as followers of that team will doubtless already be aware. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Do like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you'd like to see a video about, and I'll try and get to it in the coming days. As I say, we're going to be talking about Reiss Nelson. And Reiss Nelson right now is a free agent. His contract expired at the end of June. He's not yet signed his proposed new Arsenal contract. He's a free man. He can do whatever he likes. I think he's been on a training camp in the Mediterranean. He will be at Arsenal this season. I'm fairly sure of that, and I believe the deal could even be agreed in the next few days. Not agreed, signed. The agreement is there, and I think everyone's on the same page. It's just a question of him actually putting pen to paper. Not the only Arsenal first-team player who needs to do that. William Saliba as well, when he returns from his holidays, needs to sign that contract. But Saliba's under contract for another 12 months. Nelson right now is in this unusual position of being a free man, a free agent. He can do what he wants. He can go wherever he wants. He could, theoretically, turn up elsewhere. I don't think he will, because I think he's got that agreement in place. Now, it is atypical. It does happen. I was chatting with a colleague of mine at The Athletic, and he was saying Willy Caballero's in a similar position at Southampton, where he's out of contract, but it's kind of known he's going to stay. He's agreed in principle a new deal, but not yet put pen to paper. He's been visiting family and the like. And it's sort of on a handshake. Everyone's basically concurred, yeah, this is what we're going to do. There it is in writing. We just need to get the lawyers to go through it and get your signature on the end. It happens. It happens quite a lot lower down the leagues when budgets and the shape of the squad aren't necessarily known until right at the end of the season. The summer budget kind of takes shape quite late in the day, and that means that these decisions are left to go to the wire. Are you going to get a new deal, are you not? And sometimes those deals elapse because clubs are busy, staff are on holiday, whatever it might be. But you can reach an agreement, and the key is that you backdate the agreement. So, Reiss Nelson won't go out of pocket for this period that he's out of contract. Arsenal will almost certainly backdate their agreement till at least the 1st of July, perhaps even before that. It's not unheard of that if a player has been in contract negotiations for some time, the club will actually backdate it. And if it's taken them a while to actually get the contract sorted, they might backdate it even further and say, well, we'll pay you from March or we'll pay you from April at your new elevated salary. Doesn't happen all the time, but can happen, can be a feature of negotiations. The thing is, about Nelson being out of contract, I'm not sure there's really any more jeopardy about it than there was a week ago. I mean, sure, Reiss Nelson is now free to sign a contract with another club. Well, since January, he's been free to sign a contract with a club outside of England. Even in the last 6 months, I'm sure his agent will have been fielding many inquiries from abroad, from the UK. Really, nothing has changed, ultimately. Arsenal may be entitled to some compensation payments because Nelson's an academy player, has come through their system if he were to move for free. I don't think his contract expiring changes that. I think that the obligations would still be there. Arsenal have not released Reiss Nelson. That's a critical part of this. So I believe they would still be due some compensation if he moved abroad. I think a lot of the interest has been from abroad. Milan are one of the clubs who've been mentioned in dispatches. But Arsenal has always been his priority. And Mikel Arteta has been pretty emphatic about wanting to keep Reiss Nelson. It seems to have been an agreement ultimately based on trust. You know, the club have said to Reiss, here's your offer. He's accepted after some protracted negotiations. And everyone's just sort of, decided, okay, that's what we're going to do. And to be fair, when you've been at the club since you were a boy, like Reiss Nelson, maybe there is that degree of trust between player and club, employee and employer. So essentially, I don't think there's any great jeopardy here. There's some interesting questions about can he train in this period? He's not an Arsenal player, technically. I would say that he could, because I imagine there would be a workaround there. You only need to look back through history and see that Reiss Nelson would not be alone in training with Arsenal while not an Arsenal player. Arsenal have had the likes of David Beckham, Mathieu Flamini, Sol Campbell, Jack Wilshere, Robert Pires, all partaking in first-team training, although they were not, at those points, first-team players. So I'm sure there'd be some sort of waiver that could be signed that would enable that to be the case. Would Nelson be wise to do that? Possibly not, because obviously a big injury at this point in time could be a problem for him. So I don't think he'll be pushing himself to go too hard in training until that contract is signed, because with that comes security for both parties, right? Arsenal will be more covered by insurance and the like, and Reiss Nelson will be protected if he is to sustain an injury. And unfortunately, he's a player who's had a number of injury problems during his career, so we hope he's over those, but it's something to be mindful of. I think he's going to sign. In fact, I'm almost sure he's going to sign. I think it's going to be soon. What does it mean for him and for next season? Well, I think, as I say, Arteta's got big belief in him, and he made that point several times through last season. I always remember when he was in a press conference, he was being asked about his attacking options, maybe with Trossard added into the mix. It was put to him, you've got Trossard, you've got Jesus, you've got Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Saka, and Arteta chimed in, and Reiss. And it was just sort of his little way of almost saying to the media, don't forget about this guy, because he's believed in him since he was sort of 15, 16 years of age when they first worked together. A huge fan of his talent. And also, just outside of that, perhaps looking at it more cynically, I think there are pragmatic reasons for Arsenal to do this deal. They're spending a vast amount of money in the market this summer, £200 million or so on the likes of Havertz, Rice, Timber. They simply haven't got another 50, 60 million pounds to go and bring in an alternative winger unless they sell players. And we will come on to that. They need to sell players, and that's going to be the subject of another video later this week. Second of all, Reiss is an academy player and a homegrown product. Now, look, we all identify with homegrown players and we love seeing them shine in the first team, but there is a pragmatic need to have them in the squad, especially if you're partaking in European competition. There are quotas that Arsenal will need to make, both on the domestic front and with UEFA, and Reiss Nelson helps them do that. And I'm not saying that's the reason he signed a contract, but it is a reason to retain him, as well as perhaps the ultimate thought of, well, we may eventually cash in for this player. Having invested so much time in his development, it would kind of be a travesty to lose him for nothing. So those are some reasons I think the deal is happening. Those are some reasons why it's not necessarily a huge problem that the deal has been delayed. I think that Arteta is a big fan of Nelson, and I think he'll play a lot of games Bukayo Saka doesn't next season. I think he might even be the first in line for that right wing spot, although, as I said yesterday, I'd like to see Gabriel Jesus given a chance there as well. I think he could be really effective, but Nelson is perhaps a more natural winger and more suited to it. Yeah, they're my thoughts, and like I say, I'm hoping this video will become obsolete within about 48 hours, because that contract will be signed and announced, and Reiss Nelson will be an Arsenal player for next season and beyond. Oh, one other point, I suppose, is the salary. There have been some reports of a chunky salary for Reiss Nelson. I don't know whether or not those are accurate, but I've seen a figure of £100,000 a week touted. It's worth bearing in mind that the way Arsenal work, that salary is unlikely to be a guarantee at that level. I think there'll probably be performance-related bonuses worked into that. I think there'll probably be drop-downs if Arsenal were to go out of the Champions League. But they will have had to offer a very competitive salary because Reiss Nelson's alternative to staying at Arsenal would have been moving on a Bosman transfer. And he would have commanded a significant salary there, so Arsenal were kind of competing with that. But I'd be surprised if it was 100k a week up front. Very surprised indeed. Let's leave it there. As I say, if you've got ideas for more questions that you'd like answered on the channel, let me know in the comments. Thanks for your feedback about the green screen. Some like it, some don't. To be honest with you, it's mainly so I don't have to show you how messy my house is. If you've got a young baby or a young child, you will understand that the time that you have to dedicate to housework diminishes rapidly, and the amount of stuff, accessories, toys, clothes that you own increases exponentially. So it's mainly to stop you looking at that, because there are 2 rooms basically in this house and they're both absolutely full of rubbish. And on that happy note, I'll leave you. Keep subscribing, guys. We're going to get that mansion. Bye-bye.